Welcome back to Just Scrap Radio on BJPenn.com. I'm your host, Cole Shelton. We got a good lineup ahead of Bellator 301 and the UFC Fight Night card this weekend. First up, we were joined by the interim Bellator bantamweight champion Patchy Mix to preview his fight against Sergio Pettis. Big fight here for Patchy. He obviously just coming off the winning the tournament, win the $1 million. Now gets that undisputed title fight against Sergio Pettis, and he knows it's a big fight with Bellator's future really up in the air. He thinks a win here obviously cements himself as one of the best bantamweights, but could open some doors. This is it for Bellator, but if not, he said he wants Juan Archuleta as his first title defense. He wants that fight back. He thinks it could happen here with a win. We're then going to be joined by Chase Hooper to preview his fight against Jordan Levitt. This should be a really fun fight. Chase coming off making his lightweight debut when he beat Nick Fiore back in May. Since then, he wanted a bit of time off, gets his wish against Jordan Levitt, who he says this should be a really fun one. There's a lot of high-level scrambling. He said they're both really unorthodox strikers with high-level grappling, so I think it should be a fun one for the fans. We're then going to be joined by Bellator bantamweight Danny Sabatello to preview his rematch against Rafion Stotts. Obviously, Danny and Rafion fought for that interim title back in December of last year, and it was a split decision loss. It was a very close fight. Now fighting 3 rounds, Rafion coming off getting knocked out. 2 Patchy Mix back in April. So this is a big one. Danny is 1-2 in his last 3. He knows this is big. Especially with Bellator's future up in the air, but he thinks 3-round fight, everything, just knowing what Rafion is, he expects to really be able to push the pace right away and get a pretty dominant decision win or finish, sorry. But we close things out talking to Chad Anheliger to preview his fight against Jose Johnson. Chad hasn't fought in a while, just a bit of an injury. He hasn't fought since September last year, and he lost to Alatang Haley, and since then he's been dealing with the injuries, but he said this was kind of the right time for him. He was a bit disappointed he couldn't get on that Vancouver card being for BC, but hopes maybe he can finish Jose quick and get onto that Toronto card in January. But be sure to share the show, subscribe, and tune in next week for another episode of Just Scrap Radio. Yeah. All right, we're joined by the Bellator interim bantamweight champion Patchy Mix, who's fighting for that undisputed title here coming up. Patchy, how's it going, man?
How you doing? I feel great, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Like a big fight against Sergio. This is obviously next after you knocked out Rafion, but like with everything kind of going on with Bellator, was there ever a concern that this fight might not happen for you?
Yeah, coming into this fight, I didn't know, the state of Bellator, how it would be, if it would last, the promotion itself. I didn't know, if it was going to get sold, if they were even going to have anything past Bellator 300. Mm-hmm. So to be here, have the fight lined up, I'm very excited. I'm ready to go.
With Sergio, like he came back earlier this year against Pitbull. Like, what you make of his performance then? Because after that point, you already knew you were going to be fighting him next.
I thought it was a good fight. I actually predicted that fight wrong. I thought Pitbull would get it done, but he looked, super impressive, spectacular, great striking, great timing, good distance. I feel like he's grown into his own. Really coming into his prime. He's 30 years old, and it's just I see a lot of improvements in his game from the Horiguchi fight to the Pitbull fight.
What have you made of his run in Bellator? Because like in the UFC at flyweight, like he was like a top 15, top 10 guy, but like he looks like a totally different, like way better fighter now at bantamweight in Bellator.
I think it's a great run. I think he's like 5-0. Great run in Bellator. He ended up leaving the UFC on a 1-fight winning streak, so I think he's won 6 in a row. I think he's just more mature, grown into his own. Just style matchups. I don't think they were doing him any favors, giving him the styles they gave him in the UFC. I think Bellator kind of grown him, gave him good matchups with the Bandejas fight, the Alfred fight, and then he showed his resilience in the Archuleta fight. He beat Archuleta every round and came through, was able to beat Horiguchi, and now put it all together and beat Pitbull. So he's really coming into his own. His last 3 wins have been very important. I'd say very impressive, and same with my last 3.
How much do you look back on your fight against Juan, just fighting for the title the first time and like kind of going through the motions of all that, and like now just having the experience of fighting for the belt before? Like, do you think that will help you to win this one?
Yeah, I think every fight gives me experience, not just specifically the Juan one. I think the Juan one, it helped me for the fights that came after that. And, I think I'll always have it in my back pocket, the experience from that. But, to get through this one, it's going to be my training. It's going to be my preparation leading up to it. And it's been great thus far. And, I'm coming off of, fighting 3 former world champions. Kyoji Horiguchi, Bellator Rising World Champion. Magomedov, ACB World Champion. And now Rufian Stotts, Interim Bellator Champion. So, this is my 4th world title fight in a row. And just ready to go. I think, I'm prepared for the moment. And I think I'm going to shine on November 17th.
I know you obviously don't want to lose, but do you think that Juan fight was kind of like the best thing to happen to you? Because I think since that fight, like something kind of clicked and you're like way better and like have gotten like way more dominant kind of since then. You look like a completely different fighter.
Yeah, for sure. I think losing helped me. Even after losing, kind of struggling after that, the James Gallagher fight, the Albert Morales fight. I went through a little rough patch in my life for about a year. And I came out on the other side of that, leaving Albuquerque and moving to Las Vegas was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I used to train kind of like a hobbyist. I was at Jackson Link, and, Jackson Link's not the best facility, I don't believe, for me. And Albuquerque itself, I don't think it had the best opportunities for myself. So when I was able to move to Las Vegas, I started training with Dominance, my manager, Ali, Extreme Couture, Syndicate, the PI, all these great places with all these great fighters. I think it changed me. I started training, full-time as opposed to part-time as a fighter. And, ever since, like you said, I took a loss. I had to kind of go to the drawing board, figure some things out. And when I, did, I figured them out. And I'm a completely different fighter now, completely different with my dedication, my lifestyle, my commitment to it, because, like I'm coming off $1 million. This fight here changes my life. Being that world champion changes my life. So the incentive is there, my dedication is there, and I want to be the best. I want to reign this title, and I want to be the best Bellator world champion in bantamweight history. So, I got the most submissions right now. I got the most finishes. I want to, get this belt and run it.
I was just saying, like, do you kind of think you're just starting to finally get respect you deserve after those last 3 fights? Like, you were the underdog in all 3. Like, I think now people are starting to realize that you are like one of the best bantamweights. Maybe you are the best bantamweight in the world. Like, I feel like that last fight and maybe that Horiguchi fight were kind of the ones that really kind of started making people realize how good you were.
Yeah, I'd say for sure. Uh, like, I think it's kind of hard to explain for the diehard fans that there are in MMA. I think they kind of already knew I was one of the best, but I think like the casual fans and like the people that are kind of watching, or who's predicting these fights that putting me on an underdog? I don't know why, but it's kind of it's bizarre. Maybe it's barring the opponent, because I had tough opponents. Horiguchi world champion, Maga, like we said, Stotts 19-1. So I think I'm getting respect now, but I still don't even think people understand. I believe I'm the best bantamweight in the world, and I don't even know if I'll get the respect after this fight, but it just matters if I believe it. My stats, my credentials are I'm 19-1 with 14 finishes if I finish this. 15 finishes if I finish this guy, and that's my goal. So, whether they believe it or not, they give me the respect or not, I'll have belts, money, and I'm just going to keep adding to my trying to create a legacy here.
A lot of good looks in Vegas, especially just people rolling through town all the time. So like, who kind of were the main people you're working with for this camp for Sergio?
This camp, I sparred Marab Ishwalavili a lot. That's one of my boys. We spar every Thursday. Leading up to this one, I sparred Rob Font. He was out here for about 3 weeks. Him and the New England Cartel, Tyson, Calvin Cater, them boys, man, they're great. These guys are like, I think Rob's one of the best in the world as well. So, I get to work with these guys. My guys, Farid, Javid Basharat, Kobe Fair, Dan Ige, Ali Abdelaziz has been running my grappling sessions. So like Monday, Friday, we all meet. Amir Albazi, Twilight Timmy, just a handful of guys there. Jordan Levitt, just like a lot of, I have just so many good bodies. And then I go to 10th Planet as well, and I got like Andy Varala, my boy Nick, Spencer, Adam, my boy Solomon's in town. Solomon Renfro, he fights for PFL. AJ Robb, he just fought LFA. I just got so many, man, I got like the best training rooms I could go to, and I'm one of the best guys. So I get great work from, so many people, whether it's sparring, grappling, boxing, whatever. I just try to, I try to train every single day, and I try to just get better every day. And I try to help other people every day. You know what I mean? We're really only training for that world title fight. So, all these other days kind of don't really matter right now. November 17th matters. So, just trying to get better every day. Ego aside, I don't really mind winning, losing, whatever. Just trying to add new things to my game so that on November 17th I could show them,
With Sergio, like, how do you think you match up against him? Like, I think both of you guys are very well rounded. Like, I think two of the best bantamweights in the world. So, like, how do you think you kind of match up against him?
Just like I match up against anyone, I think, I'm capable of submitting anybody in the world at this weight class. So, I believe that that's how I match up with him. I could put him on the floor, and I'm looking to put him away. He hasn't been finished in so many years, and you're looking at the best finisher at bantamweight, in the world, or maybe bantamweight history. I finished 13 out of my last 14 wins or something crazy. The only other person that's done that is Charles Oliveira. So, I'm ready to just. I think that's how I match up with him. All due respect to him, he's got great striking, great range, great crafty style. But I think I'm like I'm a snowball going downhill, and I'm only getting bigger. I have a lot of momentum right now, and I'm trying to bulldoze him and run him right over. Go down there, put him on the floor, fly right to his hometown or whatever it is, right next to Milwaukee, Chicago. Go down there, pressure him, break him. I don't mean to put him on the floor, shoot in, none of that. You know what I mean? I could fight him in many ways, but I'm trying to pressure him, break him, and finish him.
Just a couple more things. Like, you get the win here, and you do finish them. Like, become the Bellator world champion. Like, what's that kind of mean for you and your career? Like, a lot of work has gone in, and then to finally be that undisputed champion.
Um, it's another day. I think it's just another day. I don't think it will change anything for me. Like just won over $1 million. It's not going to be money. I guess. The only thing I'll have more. I have money. I have world titles. I have belts at home. I'll just have another belt at home. But I don't really care about all that. All that shit aside, I do it for competition, and I want to compete against Sergio Pettis, the younger brother of Anthony Pettis, the legend. He's made his own name. Sergio has, he won Knockout of the Year a couple of years ago. He has a win over the only guy to beat me. He dominated. He knocked out Horiguchi, something I couldn't do, put him away. It just motivates me. From the moment I've ever walked into Jackson Lincoln, trained with him 6 years ago. He's a great guy, and it's motivated me. His style, his game. I've looked up to it for so long, and now I get a chance to go and compete against him. It's very motivating for me, and I want this notch on my record. I need it on my record, and I need to finish him.
Have you been told like what kind of the future is? Because like there's all these rumors of like Bellator might get bought by PFL. Maybe you guys are all free agents, so like becoming a champion, and like if you are into free agency, like being a champion obviously adds a lot to your profile. Like, is there some added pressure of like this kind of could set you up to have like field a bunch of offers if you guys are free agents, or do you kind of not have to worry about that because you don't really know yet?
I don't know yet. I don't really care. The only pressure I have is that I need that win on my record. I don't care where they send me anywhere. I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to win. So it doesn't matter about free agency to me right now. It doesn't matter about the promotions getting sold. It doesn't matter about all of our last wins. None of that. The pressure, I like pressure. My last fight, it was like you get this much kid if you win. I mean, if you lose, but then you get $1 million if you win. It's like that's the biggest pressure you could ever have. You know what I mean? You don't win $1 million, you feel like you lose it if you don't win it. So it's like this one, man. Just gonna go have fun and just go do what I love to do. And what I love to do is compete and train and fight. So, no pressure at all. Just, you know, the chips will fall how they do, and I just need to win here. I need to be 19-1, and I want to set myself up. I want revenge. I want to avenge that one loss in my record. So, I got to set myself up here.
That is something I want to ask about. Like, there is obviously that Rafion Stotts Sabatello fight on this card, but like, do you imagine you win this, Bellator continues, you'd want Juan as your first title defense?
I'm not looking past Sergio. That's the only thing right now. But I don't even know title defense, none of any of that. I think that when you lose to someone, you need to chase that person to make it. That's what you need to do if you're a competitor. So if I win this title, it just gives me an opportunity to call the shot that I want. Because I'd be the title holder, and it would be an awesome opportunity to avenge the only loss on my record. So, I'm not looking backward or too forward ahead. This guy has already beat that guy, so it doesn't even matter right now. So the only thing that's in front of me is Sergio Pettis, and I just need to SP Pettis, man. He does it in style, man. I'm honored to all aspects of MMA, karate, kickboxing, wrestling, boxing, jiu-jitsu. I'm ready for it all, and I'm just excited to go compete against this guy. For all the marbles. I had to sit in the crowd for the Pitbull fight, and I watched it front row. And I was just thinking, God damn, why am I not in this fight right now? That was my opportunity. That was my spot. I punched my interim title shot, and I've been waiting since April 22nd, 23rd, whenever it was when I fought Rafion Stotts. I've been waiting for my shot since then. So, I've been getting ready for the last 8 months, 7 months, whatever it's been, and I'm only have gotten a lot better. So now I'm ready to run it, and he's ready to run it. So let's see who's gonna win. Let's see who's gonna come out on top.
Just final thing, like, if this is it for Bellator, like, what would it mean like for you to be part of that final card and like be the co-main event on that final card?
Man, we should be the main event. I like
I
how you
think you guys
sound
should
like
be the
that.
main event too. I
Should
don't
be the
get why
main
you guys
event,
aren't the
though.
main event. I think it's a much bigger fight, you two.
Yeah, but I kind of like it, so then I could come out, greet all my fans, and see all the family, friends. God willing, we're all healthy. He's got a family and friends there too. Coming to watch him, so it's cool being in the co-main event. Hopefully we can get changed, put our nice clothes on, and see the people enjoying the main event. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I think it is the biggest fight on the card. Stotts definitely ain't the biggest fight on the card after he got kneed in the head by me. Since he was talking so much shit, I haven't heard a word from this guy either. I haven't heard nothing from him. He hasn't even opened his mouth because I finally closed it. But I'm thinking, this fight on the card, huge, the biggest one. So, and he's coming off a huge win over the pound for pound #1 in Bellator, Patricio Pitbull. I'm coming off the biggest win of my career. It's just so many questions to be answered. He's got such good striking. I got such good grappling. The contrast in styles is awesome. And, I'm super excited for it myself. So, just being as a part of it is awesome. And, I'm super excited to be part of it. And I think, like I said, I've done the craziest, most impressive wins in my last 2 fights. Wouldn't it be great just to do that again, Third time's a charm, the last Bellator card, 301 ever, I put the sword in the ground, I make a statement.
Well, Patchy, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this again, man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
All right, we're jumping UFC lightweight Chase Hooper, who's what, the co-main event are we going with?
Yeah,
On November
that's the
18th.
term I always like.
How's it going, man?
Good. Just you know, happy to be in a cool spot on the card and yeah, be the co-main event as I like to call it. And yeah, it's gonna be a good fight.
Obviously, you coming off that very like pretty one-sided win back in May. Like, were you a bit surprised it took about 6 months to get you rebooked, or was this kind of the time frame you thought it would be?
No, I think it was I mean part of that was me. We already had a trip to Italy with me and my wife going for our like anniversary, so August. So we told UFC like, hey, the end of the year here so we can have enough time to have a full camp and all that. for me, really the only thing that would change in the full camp is just like dieting down and all that. And I don't want to be having to diet down while I'm on vacation, that type of thing. But yeah, I mean, this was been a good amount of time off, but I'm definitely ready to get back to work, and I'm going to start pumping out fights a little more often, I think, now, especially being at 155. Yeah. That weight cut was solid. I felt great the night of the fight. I feel like my body recovered really well. It's a lot better for me than the 45 cuts, that's for sure.
Were you a lot heavier in the octagon, like on fight night, compared to what you were at 45, or is it pretty similar weight for you?
I think I was 10 pounds heavier, like, you know, because the biggest issue at 145 was the dieting itself. Honestly, I couldn't. My body stopped wanting to lose weight at around like 170. So, you know, it made more sense where, you know, here at 55, I'm able to diet down to like 75 coming to fight week. You know, right where my body is naturally like pretty athletic, and I'm not, you know, diminishing myself by having to do these like death diets, you know, like the crash diets or whatever, all the way down to where I've said it before. Like I was just drinking protein shakes like a couple weeks before. And I would do little packets of like honey and stuff to just fuel me up to train. But now I'm, you know, like the last fight week, I was able to pretty much do everything short of like spar, you know, just because you're not doing that fight week. But I was training hard. I was, you know, getting a lot of good sweat in and a lot of good work in still, even the week of the fight in Vegas, which is, you know, unheard of for me at 45. So feeling a lot better here at 55. And yeah, you know, 10 pounds heavier the night of, but I think it's more natural for me for sure.
And then Jordan Levitt, like, was this someone you had your eye on, or was it just kind of whoever the UFC gave you?
I mean, it's such a fun fight because we have very similar styles. No, I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where we were like friendly, you know, like I've seen him around Vegas a lot. We've hung out in the sauna a couple times together. You know, it's just, that's kind of what you get in Vegas. It's kind of like a wolf's den of like, especially at the Performance Institute, it's either people that you fought, people you want to fight, people that you're going to fight, and you just don't know it yet. You know, like I've seen a lot of lightweights out there, but everybody's pretty friendly. But I really do like the Levitt fight, and we had accepted another matchup before, but I think the opponent wouldn't, like, I don't know, didn't work on his end. So they gave us Jordan, and I was like, that's perfect. So it's such a fun matchup. It's the stuff that I like to do anyways. He's awkward on the feet. He's awkward on the ground. So am I. But he likes to grapple. So do I. And I think that'll be, I mean, the placement on the card just shows how good of a matchup it is. Like, I think UFC knows that. You know, it's a fun grappler on grappler fight with, you know, two of the least intimidating guys in the whole, you know, UFC history. So that's another good marketing tactic there.
Typically too, when like these two high-level grapplers fight, it like kind of turns into these kickboxing matches. Like, do you think it's gonna be different with you and Jordan just because like both you guys are like fine in different positions on the ground, or do you think it might just turn into one of these striking fights?
Yeah, I think when we watch like a Usman and Colby, like that makes sense. Like they're both wrestlers. Wrestlers hate being in bottom position, but no, I think Jordan has a little more of that, like the 10th planet kind of tinge to his style of grappling. Where I'm more traditional jiu-jitsu, but I definitely do some weird stuff. And I think we're both kind of good off of our backs, a lot better than most other guys in the division, and in the company in general. Like most of the people in UFC don't like being on their backs. But really, honestly, I'm prepared, and I've seen he posted something similar of like he doesn't know whether it's going to be like an awkward stand-up fight or like a beautiful grappling match. And neither do I. We're not going to know until we get in there. But I'm really prepared for either. I'm trying to just really like push the pace on the cardio, kind of like I did the last fight. I'm having guys put me in all sort of weird positions, standing up on the ground, all that. I just I want to push the pace on him. I think that's Jordan's got a very weird style. I think he kind of lulls guys. So I'm trying to just not match that. I'm trying to, I guess beat it, but be able to keep up that pace, kind of like I did the last fight, honestly. But whether we're grappling for 15 minutes or whether we're striking for 15 minutes, I'm gonna try to keep it awkward, and I think so is he. So I think it'll be a fun fight.
Are you a bit disappointed just at the Apex and not in front of a crowd for you?
I was kind of hoping it would be at the MSG card, but I mean, at the end of the day, my paycheck stays the same, and I love that Vegas has the no tax, especially after seeing all the Australia stuff.
Yeah.
So I like getting to keep all my money there. And again, being higher up on the card is also cool. I mean, we have an earlier card anyways, but like my last 2 or 3 fights, we've been leaving the hotel to go to the Apex at like 10:45. So like I eat breakfast and then I go get ready to fight. So now being later on the card, maybe we'll get lunch this time. And I don't know. I think the Apex is comfortable, but maybe after this one, get a nice win. Hopefully, get on one of those nice pay-per-views.
And it's just kind of nice that everything, like the PI's there and everything, like to help you do the weight cut, and like there's gyms around to train at, and like I guess that's like a big beneficial too of everything being in Vegas.
Yeah, 100%. Like one of my Fight Pass fights was in like Panama City Beach. It's like in the the northwestern side of Florida. It's like up in the Gulf side. There was no sauna there within like 3 hours. So it's nice again in Vegas, like you're gonna have everything you need to cut. You have the whole Performance Institute, the whole staff, all that. It's gonna be perfect. And again, like you already know exactly how the fight's gonna go. You're gonna have mats if you want to grapple to warm up, that type of thing. Like it's they have it so down to a science at the Apex. Like you can't beat it. And then the other benefit too is if at least with my track record, like the finishes I've got on the pay-per-views haven't got a bonus, but my finish that I got on the fight night got that extra bit of money. So, and with me and Jordan being higher up on the card, that always benefits you more with bonuses. So I definitely can't complain. If I'm on the Apex, if it ends up getting me an extra 50 grand. So.
Did you go out to like the Carolinas to see Wonder Boy and then for this camp, or did you do everything back out west?
Yeah, I went out there 2 or 3 weeks ago just to train with those guys. Got some work in with Steven. His teammate Weston Wilson's also debuted against that tough Brazilian fella.
Yeah,
right now. But no, they're great looks. Obviously, their style's a lot different than Jordan's going to be, but they're so good at striking that they can give you those looks. They can give you those type of styles. And just getting different sparring. They have great wrestling program out there. Getting some grappling in with those guys, and I mean it's always a good time out there. And I definitely am appreciative to be able to go out there and train with those guys.
I feel like I've asked for it, just don't really remember off the top of my head. How did that even come together? Like you and Wonder Boy linking up to train?
It was after my fight with Caceres. So that was my second UFC fight. And then I got a random DM from Ryan Hall one day. He's like, "Hey, would you want to come out and train?" So I was like, "Of course! Like, I'd love to train." That was a bucket list goal to go train with him for sure. And then I was just talking to him like throughout the week that I was out there, and he was like, he mentioned both Wonder Boy and Raymond Daniels. He's like, "Yeah, if you want, you should just hit him up." Like, he said he'd trained with both, and they are both great for the stand-up stuff. So that's what I did. I just I DM'd Wonder Boy one day, and then he was like, "Yeah, come on out." And I mean the rest is history. I went out there for 3 weeks initially, just to really like I don't know, like settle in and like really hammer down on all the striking stuff. And I feel like I had a couple of like pretty fundamental things that I was maybe doing wrong or that I could have been doing better. So I was just working on a lot of the striking fundamentals with them, like nothing too crazy. And yeah, I've just been building on it ever since. And I mean, I think it's been showing. So pretty happy with it.
How beneficial do you think that is, especially just like from the technical aspect point? Because like we talked about it, like you're not going to be one of those guys that just like knocks guys out with one punch. So just like kind of being more technical with your striking defense as well. Like how beneficial do you think that's been so far in your career?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of like I've hit guys pretty decently, honestly. But it's about doing it efficiently and trying to hit him, technically hit him the right way. Um, Again, yeah, like I'm not a power striker. I'm not really built for that. You don't really see a lot of lanky guys that are super, power strikers. Obviously, there's exceptions. Um, but I just need, just like someone like Islam. Like I need my striking to be good enough to get me to the grappling. His obviously looked great last weekend, but that's because he's been able to build it up without people being as afraid of it as they are of getting wrestled by him. So I feel like that's like a huge benefit. But it was either training with Wonder Boy or it was going to Thailand, and I figured training with some guys that speak English here in the U.S. was the better move. It was a lot cheaper. And I was able to do it a lot more consistently, and I feel like it's obviously paid off. But yeah, just really developing like a good striking game and having stuff to bring home after I train with them to work on with my team and work on against my teammates and stuff. Like just different looks, different style of striking. I feel like it's been super beneficial.
With this one against Jordan, like how do you kind of see it playing out then? Like we've touched on it a bit, but like here's a guy like Patty was able to submit him. Like, do you look at a lot of that? Like, how do you kind of see this one playing out?
Yeah, the thing about the Patty fight is that I can't really discount the fact that Jordan fought Patty in the O2 Arena. Like he fought Patty on his home turf. That pressure definitely played a factor. But yeah, I feel like I don't know. I feel like Jordan's done really well striking against shorter guys. I'm not shorter. He's done really well grappling against guys that aren't necessarily grapplers, which I am. So I think honestly, like if I were to roll the dice, 9 times out of 10, I think it definitely is more in my favor. But again, it's me not falling asleep at the wheel. It's me fighting smart. Jordan he's had as much success in the octagon as he has because he has a weird style, both on the feet and grappling. So it's like, just putting myself in these really awkward positions in training. Having some of my teammates, some of my jiu-jitsu guys, like, throw weird submissions on me or just hop on my back, like hop into these weird scrambles and try to push the pace on me, try to snag anything up. Same thing with the striking, just doing weird stuff just to be kind of ready for whatever. I think obviously Jordan's training, he's at a different spot now. I think he's at Extreme, which I don't know. I know Vegas is kind of weird. Like people will go between there and Syndicate, or people will stick to a side, whatever. But I feel really confident, honestly, if he comes in with the same game plan that he has for his previous fights. There's the unknown factor of what all the Extreme guys are telling him to do or what new stuff he's working. But honestly, I feel like this is a great matchup for me, and I'm really happy with it. Like at the end of the day, like both of us, there's going to be some great highlights from this fight. Probably a lot of fun scrambles. If it goes a full 15, I know we're both going to be gassed at the end. It's going to be a high paced fight for sure.
And just like winning 2 in a row is like, I was looking at your record, like you still haven't been able to do that in the UFC, which is kind of crazy. But like, is that like something like, is that like annoying, or like, do you think about that, or just like how you haven't really been able to start these streaks going?
No, I mean, I take every fight as like its own experience, its own sort of like process. Like they're all so different from each other. Every camp, every opponent, everything. That it's hard to like. I don't know. It's hard to just have that as like a one unified experience. I just kind of, I've had things like that have contributed to maybe some losses, or I'd come out and get caught, that type of thing. Like I don't know. I feel at 55, I'm really starting to come into my own, and my motivation has been honestly, obviously, I haven't fought the same caliber of guys that Max Holloway did, but
Mhm.
he was 3-3 in his first 6 UFC fights. Oliveira went 5-5 in his first 10. Like it's not unheard of, and there's a huge adjustment period um, from going to just a local show or a Fight Pass show to fighting in the UFC. Like there's a lot of pressure associated with that. There's a lot of stuff where it goes from fight weeks being you fly out there Thursday night, cut weight, weigh in, and then fight, to now I'm going out on Tuesday. This whole week is dedicated to the fight. Um, but I feel like I'm really settling in now, and I think this would definitely be a good way to kind of kick off my hopefully starting a streak here at 155, and showing people that I'm settling into the company, I'm settling into the division, and start working my way up.
And like this already is your eighth UFC fight at 24. Like not many guys even get to the UFC at 24 too. So like I feel like this all experience is gonna help in the like down the road. But like with it being your eighth, like I know most contracts are 4 fights. Like have you already re-signed it, or like is this like part of a new deal? Like do you know what the contract status is?
This is I think this is my third contract with UFC, because after Contender, they were gonna put me on the developmental deal, and then they were like, "Hey, we're having trouble figuring it out. We're just gonna give you a regular UFC contract." And then I fought out 3 fights out of my 4 fight deal, and then re-signed right before my debut. Had a couple fights, and then I think this might be my fourth contract with him, honestly. But we just re-signed right before my last fight.
Okay.
Generally, good news if UFC doesn't want to let your contract run out. So I think things have been going pretty well so far. I mean, obviously, again, like with the matchup and where they're putting us on the card, it seems like they still like me enough to keep me around. So yeah, I mean, we're in a great spot right now. The last fight was the first one on my new contract, and then hopefully get a win this one, and then another win, and re-sign for a little more money. Either way, I'm making a good amount. I'm happy, and all my bills are paid. But definitely gonna be more active next year.
And then do you put any pressure like to go out there and finish him? Like I know your last fight was a decision. I think that was like a pretty good learning experience for you, especially like how durable Nick was. So like
Yeah.
do you put any pressure to get the finish, or like are you now fine just like as long as it's getting the win, like kind of learning off that last fight as well?
No, I mean, and this goes back to when I was competing like in jiu-jitsu. I always went in there like uh focused on going the entire time. Like that's always been a big issue, or like a thing that's bothered me is seeing people that are competing or that are fighting that don't have the cardio to last. I just don't understand it. Cardio has always been a big thing for me. And competing in jiu-jitsu, I remember like uh, I would be surprised whenever I get a sub, whenever I get a finish, and I wouldn't have to go the whole match. It's the same thing in fighting, honestly. Like it's always a pleasant surprise when I'm able to get out of there early. I'm always ready to go that full 15, and I always have the cardio for it. But if I catch something along the way, that's nice to end the night early. But yeah, it never really bothered me at the end of the day. A win's a win. 2 paychecks are still 2 paychecks.
Just two more things. Like you get the win over Jordan. Like, what do you think that does for you? Like 2-0 at lightweight, and like Jordan is a guy. Like I think it's 4-2 or 5-2 the UFC. Like has a pretty nice record in the UFC. So like, what do you think a win here does for you in this division?
Yeah, I mean he has a good bit of like he has a lot of respect in the division. He's weird. He's fought some pretty high name guys like Patty. I think it definitely propels me forward, obviously, and it kind of gets me back in that forward momentum. We're like starting to move forward in the division. I think now I'm starting to, fill out more physically. I'm starting to get there more mentally. As far as like I felt super solid the last fight. So I feel very like this has kind of become normal to me, honestly, which is I didn't think it would. But like fighting for the UFC, like being a part of the company, fighting these high level fights, I'm starting to make it normal. So now it's capitalizing off that, getting the win, and keeping that momentum moving forward.
And then what is kind of the goal then for you next year? Like like this is obviously it probably for you for this year. And like, I know you've always wanted to be a bit like slower with your fights, but it feels like now is kind of the time where you're ready to start being a bit more active. So, like, what does kind of that ideal year look like for you?
Yeah, I think kind of like I was saying, like at 155, I feel I can be a lot more active. Just because I'll be having to cut less weight or like, diet down a lot less. So I'll be closer naturally to where I'd be competing at than at 45, where I was killing myself in those cuts. I'd love to fight as long as I stay healthy and everything. I'd love to fight 3 times next year and really just bang them out. Strike while the iron's hot and all that. But yeah, we'll see what UFC. I mean, obviously, try to get the win here November 18th, and then see what UFC's offering after that.
Just final thing, I know you're pretty active on your Twitter about when the USADA thing ended. A bit disappointed. You can't be getting on the juice like you were saying. Like it seems like everyone is kind of joking about it. Then like literally like the next day they're like, "Oh no, here's our new like testing program."
Yeah, I actually just got an email from Nowitzki today about like I guess they're saying everything's gonna be pretty much the same for us as far as that goes. Like you're still gonna do whereabouts stuff. Like right now, USADA, we have to fill out in this little app like where your location is, like 24/7. They're cool about it. They're like within like a couple hours. But yeah, they can literally come and test you whenever they want. And I think UFC said in that email, they're like, hey, it's going to be the same 365 days a year, 24 hours whenever they can test you. So I think it should be all staying pretty similar. It sounds like it's going to be more internal as far as that goes, but I don't know. I mean, it's all kind of above my pay grade, I guess.
Well, Chase, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this again.
Yeah, great talking to you.
Yeah. All right, we're joined by Bellator bantamweight Danny Sabatello, who's back in action here pretty soon and got a bit of a rematch. Danny, how's it going, man?
Going great, bro. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Like Bellator 301. Like before we get into that, like just your fight, like there was a lot of speculation. 300 was it for Bellator? You have a contract signed for 301. Like, what were those like couple weeks like? Where like it was kind of up in the air if this event was even going to happen.
Yeah, well, I got reassurance this entire time that this event in Chicago was going to happen, so I wasn't really too worried about it. Obviously, nothing is ever set in stone and crazy things can happen, so you really do never know. But I try not to stress too much about shit like that. I signed a dotted line, and all I can really do is prepare to fight, and that's what I've been doing. You can't really think about the rumors and distractions outside of this because that's uncontrollable, and I can't control any of that shit. All I know is that I'm going to beat the shit out of Rafion Stotts in Chicago, and that's all I've really focused all my energy towards.
Just quickly on your last fight, like what do you kind of take away from that one? Like obviously going out to Japan, being a part of that Rising card, like what do you take away from that?
Yeah, there was a lot of takeaways from that. I think it was a positive experience just because anytime you can go over there in Japan and fight there, it's an absolute experience. I kind of was getting the gist of it from everybody in the gym that the people in Japan are just a little bit different, and it's fucking awesome fighting over there. But I didn't really fully understand. And then once I got to that super arena in Tokyo, I really found out that those fans are so passionate. There were so many fucking people there. As for the fight itself, it's the fight game. I slipped up, made a little bit of a mistake, and Magomed took advantage of it. Fair game to him, but I know I'm so much better than him. I always say MMA is so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The sport, your game can end in the blink of an eye. It's the only sport where you make one little mistake and it's done. It's over. You're killed. That's unfortunately what happened to me. I got a takedown within about 30 seconds of the fight. Felt good, felt stronger than him, more powerful than him, faster, quicker. I knew my skill set was better than his, conditioning better than his going in, but I made a little bit of a mistake, and his game is that guillotine. He cinched one in right away, went for broke with it. If he wasn't going to get it, he was going to gas out his arms. But unfortunately, he got it. Sometimes shit happens. We've cleaned up the errors with that. But, sometimes you just got to turn the page and not really look back. It wasn't a fight where I got dominated and was the inferior opponent there. All that happened was I was doing really good, and then I slipped up. So, obviously, a lot to take from that. Again, fair game to him. He won, but I'm so much better than that motherfucker.
And then after that fight, like, were you surprised the Stotts rematch came up? Was that something you were asking for? Like, how did this fight kind of come together?
I mean, I'm not too surprised. Bellator knows I've been calling for this fight now for a year, ever since that he was granted the decision from the judges, which was a wrong decision. And I knew it was a matter of time I was going to fight this motherfucker. There was too many question marks at the end of that last fight for it to just not have another rematch. So I think the fight was going to happen eventually, and what better time than now? It's an absolutely mega fight for Bellator. It's a fight that the fans want to see, so why not put it on a big card in Chicago? I'm from Chicago, so obviously I'm going to have a lot of family, friends, and fans out there. And what better opponent than Rafion Stotts, a guy that I absolutely, truly do fucking hate. I always say I always hate all these guys in my division, which is true. But if there's one person I hate more than anybody, it's obviously Rafion Stotts. It's a personal vendetta against this motherfucker. I really don't like him. I want to see him hurt out there. Obviously I'm going to go into this fight not only to win, but I want to inflict a lot of pain and a lot of damage to his fucking face.
What do you take away from that fight? Because it was just like a year ago. Like, it was pretty recent.
Yeah, I'm going to be a lot better than I was a year ago. I'm training at the best gym in the world down at American Top Team in South Florida. So obviously I have no choice but to get better with time. Within that year, I'm still young. I'm getting so much better. I don't think he's getting very much better. He's a little bit older. I think he's 34 years old. But with that fight, I controlled it the entire time. Neither of us really had too much volume or damage. That's why I thought I did win the fight. But now I need to know that, hey, anytime that there's an opening for some volume or some damage, go for it. Always go for the finish. I vividly remember about the third round in that fight, my last fight with him. I kind of got content with just controlling him. I was thinking, I have all this control time and I'm on top. He's not really doing anything. Why would I take the risk to open up and maybe get caught in a submission or get clipped with something? So I kind of just got complacent in there and just wanted to control him. With this fight, that's not going to be the case. I know that you don't ever want to leave it in the hands of the judges. I know you always hear that in MMA, but you don't really fully understand it until you go through it and experience it. So this entire fight, I'm going to be putting it on with volume and a lot of strikes, a lot of submission attempts, basically just dominating him. The last fight I had so much control time, I think around 15 minutes, more than half the fight I had control time, but I didn't have too much volume. All I need to do is just add some volume, and not only do I get the victory, but I finish this guy.
And then what did you take away from his last fight, like getting knocked out to Patchy? Like, I was pretty surprised to see Patchy put him out, and especially that quickly.
Yeah, anything can happen in MMA. Anybody can knock out anybody. I don't see Patchy Mix as some killer knockout artist. His stand-up isn't that good, but obviously with a knee coming up, those things are so sharp. Knees and elbows can knock you out at any time. I did think that Patchy was going to finish him. I didn't think it was going to be a knockout, though. But it just shows Stotts' stand-up isn't that great. Obviously, anything can happen. I think his chin is starting to deteriorate, and I don't think Stotts is very durable. I'm going to put that to the test in Chicago. And I do think he's going to feel the weight of my punches, the weight of my strikes out there. We know he does have a brittle chin, and he can get the lights put out. He's had them put out twice now, and I'm looking to do it for a third time.
How different do you think this fight is now that just a 3-round fight compared to the 5 rounds it was last year?
Well, the volume will be absolutely insane. I think the pacing will be absolutely insane. If you look at all my fights, except for that last Stotts, the pacing always is pretty much insane. I have the best cardio in MMA. I always like to go. But sometimes I could get complacent if I have an absolute grip of somebody just because I'm winning that position. But as we saw with my last fight with Stotts, that doesn't really necessarily mean too much in these dumbass judges' eyes. So obviously I just got to pour on the volume, pour on the conditioning, and just make it a very high heartbeat fight. When that happens, I get my hand raised. He'll slowly start to stop with his attacks, and the blood will get down to his arms, and he'll have heavy arms. And that pretty much takes away all the danger in him. And that's when I really go out to work. I love not only winning fights, but I like punishing people. I like them having a feeling that they really don't ever have. It's not really too scary to get knocked out or get your lights put out. The scary thing is getting tortured and looking embarrassed on television. And that's what I'm going to do to this guy. I'm going to push the pace. It's going to be a very high tempo pace, a lot of craziness, a lot of anarchy. I want a very high tempo in this first round because I know he's going to be guns blazing too, but he can't keep that up for 3 rounds. So after the first, maybe the second round, then I go to work.
How important do you think your activity's been this year too? Just like kind of staying always in the gym, always fights, like third fight this year, like fourth fight in the past 11 months, like just kind of being that active. Like how important do you think that is, just keep you sharp and everything in the fight?
Yeah, it's very important. Obviously, experience is everything in this game and pretty much every sport, but also just I love to fight. The fact of the matter is I do this shit because I fucking love fighting. There's nothing else in the world I would rather be doing. I don't really understand how these guys go through a whole year and only fight one time or maybe not at all. I'd be pulling my hair out. I don't know why you're in this sport if you're not in it to fight. And I absolutely love everything about the fight. I love the interviews. I love the fight week. I love the jitters. A sick part of me kind of loves the weight cutting just because you're doing something a little bit different than everybody else in the world, and it's a very unique feeling. Makes you cherish everything, makes you cherish water. So with me, I just love everything about fighting. So I look forward to these fights, and I'm always constantly begging Bellator for a fight. I always annoy them with it. But they know that anytime I fight, a Sabatello fight is always different. Obviously, I always get more eyeballs and generate more revenue for them. So it's a good deal for everybody when I do fight. But the important thing is that I do stay active because, I really do need to fight. I need to get in this experience because I am going to be the champion of the world one day. And I just need to take it one step at a time, one fight at a time, and as many fights in a year as possible. Another thing is I always fight injured. I always fight hurt. I always fight not hurt. No matter what, I'm going to fight. I've never pulled out of a fight in my life. I see all these people pulling out of fights even when they get a fight, and it's just mind blowing. Nobody goes into a fight 100%. Nobody fights 100%. It doesn't have nicks, bruises, and breaks in their body. We're going through long, grueling fight camps. Of course, you're going to get hurt when you're sparring twice a week. But it doesn't fucking matter to me. I'll fight with one leg, one arm. It doesn't matter. If my head's cut off, I'll still fight.
And then obviously training at American Top Team, like tons of good looks there, especially in bantamweight and featherweights. Like who are kind of the main guys you were working with for this camp?
Yeah, this camp specifically, I'm working a lot with Pedro Munoz. He's obviously on a tear in the UFC and he's doing really good, but he's getting up there in age. So he's kind of molding into a little bit of a coaching position, and he's got a lot of experience, a lot of things that he can help me out with, whether it's actual part of fight game plan or just experiences in general with the fight game. So I spar with him. I go with him a lot. I've been getting a lot of southpaw looks because Stas is obviously a southpaw. I'm going with guys that are way better than Stats. So when it comes to fight night in Chicago at Bellator 301, it should be a piece of cake.
Do you have to like kind of try to calm yourself down so you don't fight too emotional in there? Because I know like Stott's a guy like you generally don't like, or do you like kind of like when you fight someone that you don't like? It kind of adds a bit of motivation for you.
No, I love it. I don't really try to calm myself too much. I kind of go with the flow and kind of just roll with the vibes. I play music before each one of my fights, and I go on the fight with a few different playlists, and it just kind of depends on my mood that time. But either way, I'm always going to be jacked up. I don't need to calm myself down. I'm a high tempo, high energy type guy with everything I do. I shouldn't change the way I am. If you saw who I am in person, you would realize the way I fight is kind of how I am in person. And I think that's a reflection of a lot of fighters. But I don't try to calm myself too much. Obviously you don't want to expend too much energy or go too aggressive because then you can leave openings for your opponent. But the main thing is you can't think like that. Obviously anybody can get finished. If I slip up and he does catch me in something like my last fight with Magomed, fair game to them. It's a very slight chance. There is a chance, but don't change anything about yourself. And I'm a high tempo, high energy guy. I'm going to go crazy in there. I always think of my fights as a party. I go in there having fun, smiling. And at the end of the day, it's fun to me. So why would I change who I am? So I'm going to go in there, high tempo, high aggressiveness, high energy, and kick the fuck out of them.
Oh, how do you kind of see it playing out then? Like, what is the prediction for this one?
Yeah, I want a very wild first round. I want a back and forth first round, believe it or not, just because I want to get the fans going. I owe it to Chicago. This is my first fight in Chicago. That's my hometown. On the regional scene, I was fighting down here in South Florida. So it's my first fight up there in front of friends, family, and fans. So I owe a little bit of anarchy to them. And also with that, I think it works to my benefit because if there's craziness and a high tempo, high pace in the first round, I think guys can't keep that first round. I know Stotts, this bitch, isn't going to be able to keep a first round high pace. So after a bit of an anarchy first round, maybe back and forth a little bit, I'll start to impose my will. And that's exactly what I want to do, is dominate this motherfucker. I want to finish him. I don't just want to get the win. I want to finish this motherfucker. So I see the first round being absolute chaos. And then that's when I go to work. That's how I've been doing with my trainings, my sparrings, and my other fights. These guys start to slow down once the conditioning plays a part, which is a massive part in MMA. And then I get the finish in either the second or third round.
How much pressure is just on this fight, just with like not really knowing what the future kind of holds for Bellator? Like, it's very much up in the air of what is kind of next. Like, obviously a big statement win, like say you guys all become free agents, kind of sets you up to have some pretty big offers out there.
Yeah, right now all I can really focus on is Rafion Stotts, because we just don't know what the future holds. We don't know if Bellator will be a thing, will not be a thing, will it get bought by PFL? Who knows? I don't know. I'm not too worried. I'll always have a job because I'm a very good, exciting fighter. If we do get bought out by PFL, that's awesome. There's so many studs over there in the PFL. That's a very high level organization. The best fighters in the world are all over the organizations. There's obviously great fighters in the UFC. There's great fighters in Bellator. There's great fighters in the PFL. At the end of the day, I absolutely love Bellator. They've treated me great. I love everybody from Scott Coker, the president, down to the people behind the scenes that I deal with each fight camp that people don't know about. So I really do love Bellator. I hope that stays how it is. But if it doesn't, then obviously there's a big opening for me elsewhere. Maybe the PFL or UFC or Ryzen or One. Who knows? But at the end of the day, all I can think about is Stotts and just beating the shit out of him. The excitement doesn't come from what happens after the fight. The excitement comes in Chicago kicking the fuck out of somebody that I absolutely hate. That's the satisfactory for me.
And then on the card, obviously, is the bantamweight title fight. Like, if Bellator continues, like, is that kind of the fight you'd want? Because I know you've wanted to fight Sergio for a long time as well.
Yeah, no matter what happens with Bellator, I would like to fight Patchy Mix and Sergio Pettis. I've been saying it for a while now. I would absolutely murder Sergio Pettis. I still don't think he'll ever fight me, no matter what happens. If Bellator does stay or go to the PFL, and we all go to PFL no matter what, after I beat Stotts, I'll probably get a title shot. I don't see Pettis beating Patchy, but if he does, I think something would happen and Sergio tears his ACL or some bullshit again and doesn't fight me. I think he'll always find a way to not fight me because it's an absolutely miserable matchup for him. But you know what? I lick my chops just thinking about that guy because I'll absolutely murder him. But yeah, I love that fight is also on the card. I'm looking forward to seeing those guys backstage behind the scenes and probably picking a fight with both of them. It's so funny when I go to these fight cards, everybody's buddy, and then I'm over there just picking fights with everybody. Everybody hates me, but that's what I absolutely love. It wouldn't be a fight week without everybody talking shit to me and me talking shit. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing Stotts in person, seeing Patchy in person, seeing Sergio in person. And then I do think the winner of this fight between me and Rafion will be the next title fight.
And then for you, like, I think, say this is it for Bellator, like, I feel like the UFC would have a ton of interest in you, especially seeing what you've done, like how kind of marketable you are. Like, so if that doesn't happen, like, is there guys like maybe still in Bellator that would come over if you go to PFL? Like, is there a guy like other than those two that you still just want to fight for your careers up? Like, what, like different promotions too that are just kind of intrigue you?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I want to fight fucking everybody. I hate all these guys. That's just the way I am. If you're a bantamweight out there, I fucking hate you. Sometimes people will DM me that are either on the regional scene or other promotions and say what's up and try to be friends or say congratulations. And I don't fucking respond, or I'll give the little middle finger emoji. I don't like any of these fucking bantamweights out there. Make no mistake. I hate all of them. I want to fight all of them. Obviously, there's a lot of guys out there in the UFC that I also want to fight, regardless whether it's in the UFC or PFL or Bellator or whatever. But, the guy that has the belt in the UFC is Sean O'Malley, and I think we all know how that fight would go down. I think I would finish him in one round. I think people that are intelligent with the sport would realize that's a terrible stylistic matchup with me and O'Malley. If I took him down, I'd just break his fucking face. He's a very brittle guy. I'd fucking murder him. But there's also guys like Corey Sandhagen that I see that I would absolutely break. One of the easiest fights in UFC would be that Marab guy, just because he doesn't have good wrestling compared to mine. But, I don't want to look too far ahead. I have my eyes set on Rafion Stotts. I have my eyes set on Patchy Mix. I have my eyes set on Sergio Pettis. those are the three guys that kind of excite me the most right now. But who knows what the future holds? I'll always get up for a fight. I'll always be marketable. I'll always come and bring it. The one thing about me is obviously I do talk shit and I do generate clicks and views and all that, but this only works when I win, and that's what I do. I'm a very elite fighter, make no mistake. I'm a fighter first, then a shit talker. I go in there and I fucking win, and I deliver very exciting, high-level fights. That's another thing. That's what's gonna go down with this Stas fight in Chicago. Is it's gonna be very high-level MMA. And if you appreciate very high-level MMA, all regards to all different backgrounds in mixed martial arts, striking, grappling, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, everything, then you'll really enjoy this fight. And that's all I got to focus on right now.
Just final thing, like if this is it for Bellator, like what would it mean like for you to be part of the final card and have like a pretty big spot on that final card?
Yeah, I think it would be very fitting just because I'm one of the faces of Bellator. I've loved them. They've given me the biggest opportunity I could ever ask for. I always wanted to fight in Bellator. It's a great promotion. They've done nothing but good by me. I've done nothing but have their back as well. I would hate to see it be the last card. I'm a very big fan of Bellator. I wish things would stay the way they are. I think we got a good thing going. You look at the roster with Johnny Ablam and Adamasov, and we might have the best guys in the world in Bellator right now. I think I'm the best bantamweight on the planet as well. So obviously the roster of Bellator speaks for itself, but you don't know what's going to go on with these business decisions. I'm not in the business, or I'm not in the business side of things. I'm in the fight side of things. So we'll see. I don't really want to put too much into that and say this is the last card, or maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But if it is, it's been one hell of a fucking run, and what, the future is even brighter from here.
Well, Danny, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this again.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we're joined by a UFC bantamweight, Chad Anheliger, who's finally back in action. Chad, how's it going, man?
Life is good. Can't complain.
Obviously, been a while since we've seen you. Like last fought September of last year. Like, what kind of was the reason for this long of a layoff then?
It was injuries. I actually got hurt in that fight. I ended up tearing something in my shoulder, like a rotator cuff thing, and it just took a really long time before it was healed enough that I could start training at 100% for a fight again. I was lucky in a way because it wasn't injured so bad I couldn't do anything. I could still train, but just not at the full intensity I needed, and I couldn't really do the MMA sparring that I really would need for a fight. So it just kept me bit out for a while, but I used that time to work on a lot of things and get better at. So I wasn't fully on the couch, but I just wasn't able to fight. So it was super frustrating. But that took like 7 months before I was really back. So.
And then they finally returned to Canada and go to Vancouver, like obviously pretty close to Calgary. Like how frustrating was that? Just like kind of disappointing as well that you weren't healthy enough to be on that card.
I'm an optimistic kind of guy because I pushed really hard to get on that card because I thought, that'd be a good push to get over my injury. And, you need that little bit of extra motivation to kind of get going again. But it would have been too soon. Like my shoulder wouldn't have been ready. Even though I was asking for it, I didn't end up getting on that card, which was kind of frustrating. I'm like, why wouldn't I be on that card? But in the end, I know it would have been a mistake. Like it would have been too early. So I'm actually pretty fortunate that my stubbornness didn't get me into a bad situation there. So no, I'm just taking it for what it is. I'm going to go out there and get this win. And then with any luck, jump on the Toronto card in January.
Oh, what do you take away from your last fight then?
I take a ton of positives away. It's actually, I know I lost the fight, but I broke my nose really early, like within the first minute and a half. And it took me a while to kind of get my bearings again and recover and get back into the fight. But for one, I was able to do that. So I was pretty happy with myself for battling through and coming back. And I think I won the second half of that fight. And I do think I would win that fight if we fought again. So yes, I lost. I can take it like a man, but I don't leave thinking that Alatang is a way better fighter than me. I think I'm a better fighter, and I think I would win if we fought again. So I'm just taking that positive out of it. The night's the night. Whatever happens, happens. But I actually I have more confidence because of that fight.
When were you kind of fully cleared then to fully train and take a fight?
I don't really know what the timeline was, but it was basically I was clear to train, but my shoulder was at 85% for months. So I got over the injury part of it in probably 5-ish months where, I could really move it and it wasn't swollen and acting weird. But really commit to punches, wrestling, that type of stuff. It just wasn't there for another probably 3 months after that. So yeah, it did take quite a while. If it was September, I mean, it was right around the January or the Vancouver card that I actually got. I was actually better. So
And then Jose Johnson, like how familiar were you with him when you got the name?
yeah, actually, I've thought that we would probably meet up in the past, even when we were both on the regional circuit. There was times when I was really scouring, looking for guys to fight, because I'd kind of been through everybody in Canada, and he was one of the guys on the list at one time. Yeah, I'm not surprised when the name came up. It's definitely going to be a fun matchup. So yeah, I was happy to say yes.
And he is a pretty tall bantamweight, like 6 feet. Like he has like a 71.5 reach advantage, or like his reach. It's no stranger for you. Like you normally do have the reach advantage. Like how do you kind of deal with that? I guess it is kind of like kind of said, it's always something you kind of deal with in your fights.
It sounds like I dealt with forever, my entire life. It's fighting, competing against bigger guys. A lot of the guys in my gym are bigger. It's not something that I really think that much about. There's lots of skills and attributes and things somebody wants for a fight, and being tall is the bottom of the list. Like, it just doesn't really mean anything to me. I do have to have a couple, things in place for game planning and make sure I'm not making mistakes and things I need to do to be successful. But luckily for me, it fits my style already. I don't have to change anything. I'm aggressive. I go forward. I throw heavy punches. That's, the best style against those taller guys that like to be rangy. So it's a perfect match for me.
Fighting at the Apex, like, is that a bit concern? Like, is that not a concern? But like, is that a bit disappointing? Like coming back and you like, especially experiencing the crowd in your last fight, to just have to go back to the Apex.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's pros and cons to it, obviously, but I want the energy. I want the big fights in front of the big crowd. Some people I know prefer the Apex because it's more just like sparring. You're just showing up, doing a job, going home, and I get that side of it too. But I'm a type of guy that really feeds off the energy. So the more the merrier when it comes to the fans. But for me, I just need to get back in there and get another win. That's the job right now. So whoever's there to see it in person, doesn't really matter.
Do you worry about like ring rust or anything just being off for a year?
No, I've had some layoffs before in my career too. I've always bounced back, and I'm always in the gym. No, I'm not worried about that at all.
I guess the He Stand fight, your contender series fight, was even no longer layoff.
Yeah,
You looked pretty
exactly.
good in that fight.
Yeah, exactly. It's normal to me. It's happened lots, and yeah, it's no big deal. I really take advantage of my downtimes. Like, I'm in the gym working on specific techniques and specific skills that are going to get me better. And then fight camps about getting in shape and implementing. So the longer breaks, I'm just going to come back better and better every time.
I know when we talked when you were on the regional scene about when you were fighting Craig for obviously the bantamweight, you were the flyweight champ there. So like, how was there ever a thought of during this time off to like maybe get the weight down and give flyweight a go, or was it always coming back to bantamweight?
I've wrestled with that back and forth a few times. I could make flyweight tonight still if I really needed to. It's not about the weight. It's about my performances, and I think I fight better and more exciting at 135. So that's what I want to do. That's the main goal for me. I'm not running from guys and hiding behind the weight and trying to get lower. I know I can beat these guys, and I think it just brings out the best in me, brings out the dog in me. I have more energy. As I get older too, it's easier to avoid injuries through training camp when you're not, really dieting super hard and training super hard. So it's got me in a good balance, a good place. I can balance my life. If I'm fighting at 125, I'm pretty miserable to be around. I don't have great energy for, to work at my gym, for my relationships, for all that stuff. So 135 is the right place for me. I'm sure of it.
Did you like ever worry about the strength or anything? Because like you've handled it pretty well at bantamweight for like being small. Like, was that ever a worry for you? Just like how you deal with that size and strength?
It's all relative. Strength is what, lifting weights, or is it wrestling and jiu-jitsu? I mean, your skill is always more important than strength. It's been proven time and time again. So there's a level of it, but it is not as much as people think. You see anybody that trains can walk into a jiu-jitsu gym or a wrestling gym and know right away that it doesn't matter. You see all different types and different sizes of people training with each other, and it's the person with more skill that wins, not the person that's stronger. So it's always in the back of my head. I'm not worried about it. And for me, I've been doing this for a really long time. I've built up a different type of strength. Like I am a very strong guy when we get locked up in our grappling, and it's usually deceiving to most. So no, I'm feeling pretty confident.
Is there any pressure on you going to this one? Like just coming off the layoff and coming off that loss, like you never know in the UFC if you lose 2 in a row. Like, is there a lot of extra pressure on you?
I think so. I mean, I feel some pressure, but I try to take that pressure off by just fighting well and fighting exciting. Even the match, they offered me quite a few fights while I've been down because nobody really knew the extent of my injury and how long I'd be out for. So I actually got offered quite a few, and every person they offered was an exciting matchup that was like, exciting striking or somebody coming off wins, or I can get the sense that they still want me to go out there and perform great fights. So that's what I'm going to do. I know that it's been shown through the history of the UFC. If you fight great, exciting fights, they will take care of you. It's been shown time and time again. So that's what I'm really focused on, is fighting as memorable as I can. The rest will work itself out. Usually when I fight that way, I win. But so as long as that still happens, even better. But for me, like the number one goal isn't winning, and it hasn't been for a long time. It's about fighting great and being remembered.
Same like camp and training partners as usual then for this one, or did you change anything up?
Nope, no, everything's the same. Working at Champions Creed, we got tons of killers. We got lots of young guys going to come up. We've got myself and Hakeem. We got everything you need for sure. I'm feeling great.
How frustrating was that fight for Hakeem for you guys? Because like I thought it was a pretty clear win for him, and then to see him lose, like just kind of shows what the judging is like still in 2023.
Yeah, it's a little scary, is what it is. It's happened to Hakeem a few times, even with his split decision wins he's had in the UFC. We're definitely not split decision wins. It's very scary that it can happen like that. But on the flip side, Hakeem got to go out there and beat up Cub Swanson in front of the world. So it's not a bad night. If anything, it brought more attention to his fight and really gets to show his skills. The loss is frustrating. The losing the money is frustrating. All that stuff is frustrating, but he went out there and did the job and beat up Cub in front of the world. So it's nothing to be too upset about.
How do you kind of see this one playing out between you and Jose?
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting fight. I really feel like I've got the advantage on the feet. He may also think he does, so that usually pushes a fun striking matchup. And then if things are going the way I want, I'm just going to keep wearing him down. And then if I decide to grapple him and take him down, I think I have lots of advantages there too. So I'm feeling really confident in this fight. I've got a lot of power. He likes to throw his strikes, but I think that's going to end up getting him in trouble. So I hope to knock him out and leave with an extra 50K if I can.
What do you think a win here does for you in the division? Like, obviously, just gets you back in the win column. Kind of reminds everyone you're still here. Like MMA fans, I think have like probably the shortest term memory of any sport. Like, it's a lot of like, what have you done for me lately, kind of thing. So, what do you think a win here does for you?
I think it jumps me right back up because I lost my last fight, but I've won 10 of my last 11. And my last fight was a close decision loss. I had to battle back through that busted nose, and that shoulder injury happened in the fight. And I still fought well. I still showed I belong with those top guys. So I go out there and I knock out Jose. I feel like I'm looking at a really big fight right after that. And timing wise, that could work out great. I'd love to knock him out, and then January get a big name, a big matchup for Toronto.
Yeah, that is kind of my thing. Like everything I've heard was, I think they just haven't announced it, but it's all official. Like January Toronto, and I know they're going to Canada 3 times next year is the plan. So like, would that just kind of be the ideal year? You just hop on all 3 Canadian cards, get your 3 fights in, fight at home all the time.
Yeah, I am looking to really push the envelope. Like I would have, after my other fights, if it wasn't for injuries, because I'm older. I'm not going to be in the sport forever, but I have a lot to give right now. I still feel really energized in my training and really motivated. So I want to fight all these guys, all the toughest guys, all the best matchups. I want to get as much as I possibly can, and I know I have a lot to give. So me and the UFC will have a great relationship if they keep giving me these exciting matchups, because I'm going to keep delivering on my end for sure.
Have you thought about how much longer you got in this sport? Or is that still like a couple of years away from thinking about that?
No, I'm wrong every time I think about it. Like I've told myself at certain ages I was going to retire. I told myself at certain number of fights I was going to retire. I've done it so many times, and I'm going to stop lying to myself. So I'm just going to keep fighting as long as I feel physically able, and I feel great. I really do. I know everybody says that, but I'm in the gym every day training. I still feel great. I still have lots of motivation for it. So there's no reason to stop now.
Just final thing, like I know, like obviously being in the UFC is like was a huge goal of yours, but like, do you think you're kind of still playing with like house money a little bit? Like even fighting the UFC, like your guys started 2-5 in your career. Like many guys would probably just quit at that point or just retire. And like for you to just still keep on fighting and then go on that long win streak, beat guys like Brady, and then get to the UFC, like is there a sense of like this is all just like a bonus from like your career, what you thought it would be?
I feel like I'm cashing in on my early investment because I put a lot of time and energy into this game, and it wasn't going great early, and now that investment is climbing and climbing. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I don't feel like it. I feel like I've earned it for sure, more than most even. But now that it's here, I just want to maximize on it. I want to make the most exciting fights I can. That's the one benefit I have, like that term playing with house money. I've heard it before. And I actually like it because it takes a lot of pressure off of me and allows me to fight my best fights. And when I do that, things just are going to go well. I'm going to win the fights. I'm going to win fans. You know, even after my Alatang fight, coming off a loss, I really only saw positive feedback from fans and from everybody. So I'm just going to keep doing what I do, and things just keep working out. So it's a good match right now. I'm feeling confident.
Well, Chad, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this again.
Thanks, buddy.